Nice to see such a good turnout again. As Sir Adrian said, this is the third one-day event we've done with University of London International Programs, and the second that we've done with our friends at the Leadership Foundation, and it's really great to work with you all. I guess most of you know something about the Observatory. We're a research and monitoring unit on international higher education. We're located at the International Graduate Insight Group, iGraduate, which itself is part of a tribal group and has been for about a year or so. And I think I'm just going to push on from that. This is the cycle of hype that Sir Adrian and Tim mentioned. And I don't think it's from an article in the Times Higher a week or two ago. And I don't think the hype cycle was actually invented for MOOCs, but it probably should have been. When we convened here in this room almost a year ago in February 2013, we had perhaps just getting up to where that sun is at the peak of inflated expectations. And another point that was mentioned in that article that Adrian flagged was that in 2013, there was more written about MOOCs than is actually known. Now, this is a great academic tradition that deserves our full and ongoing support. Tim and I were at a MOOCs conference in Brussels, and there was one or two of you here who were at that meeting as well in October, and there was a lot of excitement. And this is just some of the logos of the online portals and platforms, most of which are brand new over on the continent. And it was clear that the phase of the hype cycle on the continent was about where we were in February. But it was October in Brussels, so there was about an 8-month displacement there, and so it's probably likely that that over on the continent they're starting to begin their descent into the trough of disillusionment any day now. And so what we see now are headlines in the newspapers. One from the Business Standard in Delhi was India embraces MOOCs, but what if they are a lousy product? And from the Chronicle last week, doubts about MOOCs continue to rise, survey finds, and MOOCs been there, done that. But even so, the momentum is still there. When we were in this room a year ago, Coursera had signed up by that point in time 2.5 million students, and it was adding about 16,000 a day. It had 33 partner universities offering 217 courses. Edinburgh's courses had just been launched, and London's were on the way. Now it has 108 partners and 595 courses in 12 languages. 6.3 million have signed up, at least they've signed up. And over the last 3 days, that number of students has increased by 14,000 per day, which is almost as a rapid rate of increase as a full year ago. 1 year ago, FutureLearn was still on the drawing board, although a dozen universities had formally expressed their intention to participate. Now FutureLearn has 29 partners, and the website currently lists 40 courses, a few of which have just started last week, and the rest are starting over the next few months. I showed this slide a year ago, 2 important considerations about MOOCs: how quickly MOOC completion certificates will be integrated into formal credit at universities, and how MOOC methods may impact on pedagogy. I still think that's true 1 year later. Last year, I noted that the University of Washington, which is a Coursera partner, had offered 2 versions of some of its online courses. So there was a free version, and there was a credit-bearing, what they called an enhanced version, that you would get for a fee. And with that fee, you got interaction with an instructor and additional assignments and things like that. And the 4-credit version was, of course, in part, it was a means of paying for the free version. Now, if you fast forward that to last week, the Chronicle reported last week that Harvard is going to offer 3 versions of an introductory course in computer science in a couple of months' time in the spring. So you can get it as a free MOOC through edX. You can get it as a semester-long credit-bearing online course through the Harvard Extension School, which gives you full access to teaching staff and human feedback on assignments. That's a quote. You get that for $2,050. And the third is a blended option which combines the MOOC with a fortnightly personal contact with the course lecturer online, and also a discussion forum moderated by teaching assistants, and that you get for $350. And if you go for that last option, that $350 option, it gives you a $350 discount on future courses that you take through the Extension School. So the Chronicle reported that 174,000 students so far have signed up for the free MOOC, and 100 each for the credit and blended versions. Not 100,000, 100 each for the other two versions. I'll get to the point in a minute. There's another example. Between January and September last year, Coursera had about 5 million students average at that time. Of that 5 million students, about 25,000 of them paid a $50 fee to take a supervised exam for a verified completion certificate. That's what they call their signature track program. It generated about $1 million, which was the bulk of Coursera's revenue last year, except for this. This is their online store, where you can buy Coursera t-shirts and coffee mugs, and the revenue apparently goes to their financial aid program for their signature track students. And when you buy your mug, you get a sticker that says you support the principle that education should be a fundamental human right. They will need to shift a lot of mugs or find new revenue streams to pay back the venture capitalists from whom they have received $85 million to date. And just another quick example, again from the Chronicle. Last autumn, the University of Texas at Austin ran a psychology MOOC for which they had anticipated enrollment of about 10,000 students. And they were looking at hopefully $5 million in revenue by charging $550 for each student that came from outside the University of Texas system. They had 125 people lined up to produce and administer the course. That's lecturers and teaching assistants and audiovisual people and online mentors and all that sort of stuff. And the punchline is that fewer than 50 students outside the university enrolled, so they barely managed to get $20,000 revenue on that one. So what does all this mean? It means a few things, I think. First of all, it's going to become normal to have different pathways for online courses. Most, if not all, MOOCs are going to have parallel streams for different constituencies of students. Those who want to pay for some reason, either a credit or some kind of externally verified certificate, and those for whom that sort of thing is not important. Secondly, these different constituencies are really completely different. So it really means that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to talk about different streams of MOOCs as if they are the same thing, because they're not. And you can take completion rates as a good example. People argue about completion rates all the time, and what do completion rates tell us about the success of education programs? The low completion rates, I think, mean almost nothing for courses that are free, because a lot of people who register for free courses have no intention of completing them. The completion rates for those who pay is a different matter, at least in countries where tuition isn't free. Thirdly, it means that the relative sizes of the different student constituencies is important. The majority are doing MOOCs for the whole original idea, knowledge, self-betterment, out of curiosity, without necessarily seeing them as part of an educational ladder, and many of these people already have degrees. For the majority, the MOOCs are quite separate from the traditional delivery of higher education, and even from the delivery of fee-paying online education. Those who are looking for some type of qualification or something that it's a step to further study or a step to getting a job is a smaller constituency so far anyway. And it's really only this smaller stream that matters in terms of how disruptive it's going to be to traditional university teaching. Fourthly, it means that the answer to the question of how quickly MOOCs will be integrated into formal university credit is really not that quickly. I realize that answer lacks something in precision, but the impact of MOOCs on pedagogy, on how higher education is delivered and consumed, is going to be slower and more gradual than a lot of people still think, and probably for other reasons that I haven't even mentioned, like, for example, human economic interests at universities and career interests and things like that. But that doesn't mean they're not going to have impacts. They are going to have impacts in a number of ways. There are ambitions, and I think Martin Bean might be able to confirm this, but I'm pretty sure that the FutureLearn members want to use MOOCs as a tool for international recruitment. MOOCs certificates can be used for foundation qualifications to go on for degree programs. Tim mentioned those specializations with Coursera, which are course bundles, often designed for continuing professional development for people who have degrees. And in spite of those setbacks that I mentioned in establishing fee-paying options, full degrees via MOOCs has already begun. There's one that's captured the imagination in the States. You may have heard of it. It's an online MSc in computer science from Georgia Tech on the Udacity platform. And I think they've started a trial run this month, if I read the article correctly. That degree is priced at $6,600 compared to the $45,000 on-campus price. Georgia Tech are providing the teaching staff and the content. They get 60% of the revenue. Udacity provides the platform and some course assistance. They get 40% of the revenue. They have the budget for the current run is $3 million, $2 million of which came from AT&T, which is a big telecoms company, and AT&T want to use that program to train employees and to find new talent. That's another use for MOOCs. And so they're projecting maybe $5 million profit in 3 years' time. And that's, of course, if anybody signs up for it. But if they do, you can see why this Georgia Tech degree is a big deal. President Obama said last autumn that it was, it was pointing the way forward, and it was a model for controlling the rising costs of higher education in the United States. And AT&T's involvement points to another trend, I think mentioned by Sir Adrian. And after Sebastian Thrun had his Gerald Ratner moment, the Chronicle also reported that Udacity had shifted its business plan to a more utilitarian world of corporate training. And if you look at the Udacity website, it says on the front page that they emphasize their courses are going to help you get a good job. And the quote is, landing a dream job takes much more than an impressive resume. That's why Udacity courses are built around hands-on projects that you can show off to employers as part of your portfolio. So I read that as a clear attempt at differentiation in the marketplace when Coursera is getting 10 times the amount of column inches. And so it remains to be seen what kinds of differentiation strategy and revenue streams that go with that will be adopted by FutureLearn. And perhaps Simon Nelson this afternoon, or perhaps Martin may have ideas about that. So it's good to remember that the most skeptical voices about this, about the revolutionary impact and potential of MOOCs, belong to those who have been in the online game for the longest. Those of you who were here last year, Diana Lauriard, fairly skeptical voice, and she's been in the game for a long time. There's nothing she doesn't know about online learning. More recently, we had a conference in December, and it was argued at our conference in December that MOOCs are regressive developments, that they're simple linear learning when technology permits so much more, that MOOCs present an opportunity to see what technology can really do to teach people more effectively. But I think that experimentation is already happening. Some argued that MOOCs are a deformalized, deinstitutionalized way of learning, and that they should not be brought back into formal learning by accrediting and by integrating them into degree programs. But that's not realistic. The horse is already bolted. There have to be revenue streams, even if they're free at point of use. I read in a blog last week, even if MOOCs are free now, they cannot be free forever. Well, yes, they can, but only in parallel with the fee-paying versions. And I think MOOCs are basically going to be both, as is required. So I think that's it. Just a couple of quick thank yous, if I may. I wanted to say thanks again to Tim Gora and his team, especially Tom, who's here somewhere. I want to say thanks to David Locke and all the people at the Leadership Foundation, especially Hannah. They're really a great pleasure to work with. I want to thank Will Archer and our colleagues at iGraduate for their support, especially Rachel down there in the back. And thank the Observatory team, Teresa and Mamoon. Thanks to the University of London for the venue. And thanks back to Tim, and hope you have a great day. Thank you.